Here.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the February 6, 2020 board meeting. Moved by Heather and seconded by Neil to accept the minutes of the February 6, 2020 board meeting. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? 10-0. I would also entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the February 27, 2020 special board meeting.
Second.
Moved by Danielle and seconded by Roy to accept the minutes of the February 27, 2020 special board meeting. Any discussion? All in favor? 10, opposed, abstained, 0. This is the time we have for citizen input. So if there's anybody who has any comments to make regarding items that are on tonight's agenda, this would be good time. So, start with.
I just have a request, if the recorded meetings possibly be uploaded a little sooner than they are, I don't know if that can be done or not.
We can certainly check in. Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, moving to old business. We have a number of policies that are up for their second readings this evening. So I would entertain a motion to approve the second reading of revised policy AEC, non-discrimination, equal opportunity, affirmative action, as presented by the policy committee. By Beth, seconded by Katrina. Any discussion? None? All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? 0. We have a motion to approve the second reading of revised policy ACAA, harassment and sexual harassment, as presented by the policy committee. Second. Moved by Heather and seconded by Danielle to approve the second reading of revised policy AA, harassment and sexual harassment, as presented by the policy committee. Any discussion? None? All in favor? 10. Opposed? Abstained? 0. Good one. So I would entertain a motion to approve the second reading of revised policy ACAAR, student discrimination and harassment complaint procedure, as presented by the policy committee. Moved by Danielle and seconded by Judy to approve the second reading of revised policy ACAAR, student discrimination and harassment complaint procedure, as presented by the policy committee. Any discussion? All in favor? 10? 0. And I have a motion to approve the second reading of revised policy ACAB, harassment and sexual harassment of school employees, as presented by the policy committee. Moved by Heather and seconded by Katrina to approve the second reading of revised policy ACAB, harassment and sexual harassment of school employees, as presented by the policy committee. Any discussion? None? All in favor? 10, 0. This is the last one. I have a motion to approve the second reading of revised policy ACABR, employee discrimination and harassment complaint procedure, as presented by the policy committee. Moved by Beth and seconded by Neil to approve the second reading of revised policy ACABR, employee discrimination and harassment complaint procedure, a presentation tonight from KPCC, Kathy Engelhardt.
Well, there won't be a presentation
Okay.
given our IT, but I will definitely present. I'm not sure, do I just sit here and
You can sit or stand, whichever you're more
I'm more
comfortable.
comfortable standing if that's possible.
Of course.
And I apologize to the audience, there's only a few of those. So I'm the academic dean at Kennebec Valley Community College, and we have been working with area high schools and CTEs to develop our dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment program, where high school students can take credit at the college. Some of that credit in dual enrollment, they actually come to the college or they participate in online courses with other college students, and some of them are actually in the high school, and we refer to those as concurrent enrollment with their high school faculty who are qualified to teach it. One of the issues that's coming up is students are accumulating lots of credits and not necessarily credits that will transfer into what they want to do eventually. And so that's a real concern with the Department of Ed, it's a real concern for us. And so we have been working with SCTC and Skowhegan High School, and also with Lawrence, informally, to try to develop some pathways for students that are more defined, and that when the students complete this pathway, they actually, once they graduate from high school, will earn a one-year certificate credential. So that's what you see before you. So currently, we are working with students who are taking the welding certificate program. High school students can't matriculate in a college program, that is a rule, but we are tracking them, we are providing the courses for them, and in this case, these students are coming to the college. They come in the morning, they come bright and early and take their welding in the morning. We've worked with the school to schedule so that they could get back for their other block classes, and it's been quite successful. This is the first year, so those students are literally doing the first semester of the welding program in their junior year. We did have some seniors participating. The second year, they would go into their second semester for us, but their second year, their senior year, they'd be able to complete the welding certificate. They're able to get their AWS certifications. I don't think I have to tell people how much welding is in demand. We're having trouble keeping our students to complete their certificate before they get scooped up. So welding is incredibly in demand right now. The other area that we would like to work with, and that's why I presented to Principal Bowers, is the health science field. We have a lot of students who want to go into nursing and other programs, and not necessarily at KVCC, but we think that we can help them by providing the curriculum for the health science certificate. This includes all of those general eds, including anatomy and physiology 1 and 2, that they would need to literally take care of 1 year of college. It also prepares them. One of the issues that we have at a 2-year institution is the students come and they end up in a holding tank for a year because they have to complete that anatomy and physiology pathway. And so we would like to work with some of our area high schools to provide a pathway so those students can graduate from high school and be qualified and prepared and gain entrance into the nursing program immediately after high school. And again, this isn't just for KVCC, this would be for any health program, and it's not just nursing programs. These courses that are part of the health science certificate are transferable into any health program. Every health student has to take these courses, and so they would be applicable if they're going for a 4-year degree somewhere. So essentially, it has a great cost-saving measure for the students of saving a year's worth of college cost. But the other part of it is that it allows us to help them navigate, and I know we have guidance counselors in high school, but the reality is the different health programs can be very complicated for students to navigate, whether they want to go into rad technology or whether they want to go into nursing. And we think this relationship with the high school and the high school students will allow us to provide that additional navigation. And so that's where we are right now. We are starting, as I mentioned, with Skowhegan this fall, that they will have students enrolled in it. The students would come into it in their junior year. They would take 2 college courses each semester for the 2 years, and when they graduate again from high school, then we're allowed to grant them a college credential. We can't do that until they have their diploma in hand. However, they can participate in the college graduation, but they just can't get that piece of paper until after. So that's what I wanted to bring to you, to talk to you about. I also just, what people don't understand is every credit that a high school student takes that's college credit counts in their academic progress when they get to college. So there are situations where students have taken 20 credits that aren't toward the degree they want, but they still count as 20 credits that they've taken. And when you get into financial aid, it doesn't matter whether financial aid paid for them, it looks at the total credits earned. And so students get 150% of the credits that can be funded by financial aid, but when you have a 2-year degree, that extra credits can really screw the kids up when they're trying to complete a nursing program or whatever. So we're just trying to be mindful and educate people, and we're really pushing credit with purpose. So regardless of whether we entertain this type of pathway, we want to make sure that we're helping the students to select the right courses so that they don't waste credits, if you will. If you're going into a STEM career, you don't need technical math, you need other math pathways, and so that's what we're trying to work toward. So it's really about educating people, helping them, and also providing that extra layer of support for the students, particularly if they want to come to our college, but again, this is not specific to recruit to our college. So, does that answer? Okay?
A great opportunity, and I know I heard of this last spring when I spent some time in the high school, and you're working with high school faculty.
Yes.
For example, what we do now is probably your grounds
Yes.
coursework. So it's great to have this relationship. Thank you, faculty. But and also to hear you mentioned credit with purpose and this idea of improving persistence rates. Higher ed's very expensive. And oftentimes, or sometimes, students find themselves in a situation where they've amassed X, Y, and Z, but it brings them to no path at great cost. So that's a wise part of their effort in education. But and that you're looking, again, we were just talking about labor market and the demand for employees in certain fields, and I know that you've named a couple of them that are of great need. Kids will find work and carve out a good life for themselves in your industry. So thank you for taking the time to come tonight and jump in. I'm sure there are other questions.
Well, and you brought up a good point. The research shows us that students participating in dual or concurrent enrollment are more likely to persist when they get into college because hopefully we do give them some college experience with that. And we also want them to identify with a college because they are a college student through that two years as well. So it is exciting. I think it's really important, but it also is nice if they can have credential. And like you said, they could leave with health science and go work as a patient service rep, and then they might not want to go to college for a few years, and that's fine. They can work in a healthcare facility and then have somebody else pay for their degree, which would be really smart if they could do that. So it opens the door for them. And this is just the beginning. We're looking at business and some other pathways as well. And again, if we don't have a faculty member that's qualified in the high school, we're working with the high schools or the CTEs to either push in one of our faculty, which we've done in the case of psychology, or work with one of those faculty where it may be a team talk type of situation. So there's ways to do it. Anyone have any questions?
Hi, Kathy.
Hello.
How does the welding program, how is that financed? Does the student have to pay for it, or?
Right. My president's not here. We put part of the bill. So there is a fee, materials fee, which the high school has been paying for those students. The tuition is reimbursed from the state for the most part, although they're undergoing some changes with that. So you're able to do it.
It's a great program.
It is. We have an excellent welding instructor, and we're getting a new welding lab that's being built this summer, so it'll have 18 booths. So I probably should look more closely, but it's working, and
No, it's fine.
Thanks, Karen. Okay, any questions from anyone else? Thank you.
And now we have a presentation from Jason Butler on Lawrence High School coding class.
You guys stay ready. Hold on. My name's Jason. I'm going to wheel a TV. I think I'm going to place the TV right back here. Oh, you're this way. I think, why don't you guys, let's see what, let's do the wheeling.
Oh, okay.
So how about those parent-teacher conferences, everybody?
If you need an extension cord, I've got one.
Well, that's, I don't know if I'm gonna need all that much. I think that, I will amplify the presentation. Nice. Thank you, John. John is our tech guy from the school as well. So, and let's see if we can do this. So, my name is Jason Bellner. I work at Lawrence High School and have for a little while. And I'm a chemistry teacher primarily right now, but I teach biology and chemistry. And I had two really great students last year in the junior honors chemistry class who just took to it like fish to water. This opportunity came across my desk last year, and so I took a course this summer that got me really motivated to then immediately from the class get a hold of Gretchen and Angel over at the high school and say, I need to get these two guys, we've got to arrange their schedules, they're going to do this unusual trial with me. So let me talk to you about this. So what's really nice about what Kathy is doing, and I was thinking about this as she was speaking, whether it's Chimbro or whether it's BIW, there's a lot of opportunity in Maine. And a lot of those opportunities are reaching into the high schools and looking to meet our kids where they are in high school and help them be really hopeful and excited about the future. Now, this group right here, this is part of Educate Maine, which a lot of people have heard about. Maine Math and Science Alliance do a lot of work, and these two groups, all three of these groups, are helping fund locally Code.org, which is a not-for-profit, started in 2013. It's Google, Facebook, Microsoft. It's an enormous enterprise, and they are looking to get computer science into these high schools all over the country, and they really want to make it part of the core curriculum. They're looking to see how can we find ways to access student interest. That's latent, it's already there. So this trial that we did this year with two boys was really the three of us going through this curriculum together. So one of the rationales or reasons I think really speaks to what Kathy was getting at is that there are untapped avenues for our kids. There are not a lot of science, well in this case there are a lot of STEM opportunities, but there's not a lot of computer science opportunities in high schools. This particular was something I dug up the other day from Maine. So if we take a look at this, we have an enormous number of computing jobs, but very few computer science graduates. And this is really one of the issues that Code.org is trying to get into, is it's not required. There's no certification really to teach computer science in the way that it's being taught in a lot of places now. And so they are working at state houses at the same time that they're working with people like me to go find kids who are interested in this curriculum. This, I think, was very interesting and speaks to Kathy's point, is that computing jobs are just an enormous source of opportunity for kids getting out of school right now. A lot of growth in new jobs right now is computing, and it's not just mainframe stuff, it's computing in all fields. And I think that's one of the strengths of this course, is that we're trying to see that coding experience can be really helpful in any career, whether it's running a business, running a store, or working in a hospital. There's always solutions that could be coded. and that's why we want to get these guys up to speed. So one of the things that was really exciting, and this right here is pie in the sky maybe for Lawrence High School or other high schools like this, but we had a visit this summer. This is a company out of Falmouth that came to our school to talk to 2 kids because they're hosting a main app challenge, which is something you'll see later. It is a very exciting opportunity. Is it $10,000, boys?
$6,000 for first place, $3,000 for second place, and $1,000 for first place for scholarships to go to college. Or if you're doing like a class on your own, you don't go to college, if you're just learning coding on your own, you can still have that money.
Yeah.
If you're going to the military and learning coding as well, you can still get the scholarships if you're not going to college, but if you're going into debt or something, they'll give you a scholarship if you win. And
the piece that was amazing is at the very end she said, hey, and if you do enroll in this program, you would be right for an internship, which perked their ears up because now it's, hey, I went to Maine, this is what this woman's telling these kids, I didn't know anything about computer science when I was there, I would love to hire a kid like you to come intern with us. And then, so I mean, the fact that job opportunities were walking in the door of Lawrence High School was mind-blowing for all 3 of us. And the enthusiasm that she had for the opportunities was really super hopeful and exciting. So this one of these guys was from MCI last year who wrote a very small little app for effectively for our bulldog closet. So his kids wanted to get in to get a sweatshirt or get something warm to wear, but they couldn't access, they didn't have keys, and how am I going to get in there? This kid wrote this really nice little app and won himself a whole grip of money. These guys right now, at this point in the year, are already writing at that level, which is impressive. So I also wanted to throw this out. This is something that we will get into the curriculum, but this absolutely blew my mind. And this was a casual conversation I had this winter. The man was an engineer who worked with this outfit. This is out of Massachusetts. This is akin to what Chimbro and BIW are doing. Stacks and Jewels is an outfit that looks at sophomores, juniors, and seniors in high school, typically first-generation Americans, and they want to teach them control systems language. So all the heating units in this building, the lights, whether that's at Hudamaki or if you have a refrigerator that you can talk to. It's a very, it's not a simple language, but it's universal. And so these guys are learning as sophomores how to code this. They're working throughout the summers, and these kids are graduating with a certificate like Kathy talked about, but they're going right into industry at wages that you could live in Boston. And it's unbelievably successful, and it's really well developed, and Maine could benefit from something like this. And we have students in our districts that would be ripe for opportunities like this. And all my eyes were opened this year working with these guys, realizing what opportunities are available. So let me bounce here. Let's talk about the class itself. So Angel was the person who helped me arrange what amounted to an independent study. This was going to be like in a study hall on the slide, don't tell anybody, let's figure this out. And Angel said, boy, we could really work on independent study with these guys. And so we met during a study hall all fall and worked very hard together, which was really great. Tyler and Josh will introduce them. You've heard Tyler already. The interface is something that's online. So like I said, code.org, they've got Microsoft folks working on this. They have all sorts of people creating something that is incredibly attractive. This is something that was teaching us binary. It's very game-like and creates an engagement level that is hard to achieve in a chemistry class, I'll just say. I have tricks that I certainly have available that maybe an English teacher wouldn't use. And this thing, out of the box, is equally just entrancing. It's wonderful. So this guy here, it's not just all on the computer. There's a lot of teaching that can happen in the classroom. There's a ton of discussion. And one of the pieces here, this was effectively writing human-machine code. So we're going to turn Josh into the computer, and Tyler's got to code him. So he has this objective. He's got to move cards around the table. And ultimately we're failing and struggling and dead-ending. And so then we've got to work together to try to create solutions. That tension, that friction that kids experience can be overwhelming. And the persistence needed to code is incredible. And one of the things that's really nice about this program is all that's integral to the design of the course. So they're gonna have kids run into obstacles, and they're gonna help them work through it. And this pair programming is a very strong part of the coding. So we're really teaming together. Josh is helping me, Tyler's commenting on what he, helped me with, and before you know it, it's this really robust conversation. It's tremendous. So this guy here, I can try to click into some links, and let's see if I can show you a couple things. I wanted to show you the actual app lab itself. So this is the interface that we would use. This, again, is something that's online. I can matriculate students. We can do this at home. Every kid with a computer can access this wherever they are. And those boys have computers that they can get into this, and they were in that today as I was messing around with the AV. So what's interesting about this is that you've got the ability to, if everybody knows this, you can drag code from here, block style, which I can go and show you this. For someone like me, this is pretty handy. It's very plug and play. It's if anybody's used a computer, this is not intimidating. But then the hotshots like to get in here and get into syntax and write. There's a lot of assistants and aids that pop up, and then there's these menus that deepen and expand as you progress through it. So it's very much something that is scaled. It gets harder and harder and more complicated as you go through it, and it's super interesting. This is a very simple turtle bit. If anybody took DOS in the 80s, you don't have to admit how old you are, but you've seen something like that. This is something that Tyler was working on. There's a clicker game piece, and all I really wanted to see is just all the, this looks like French to a Spanish speaker, right? So the idea that these guys are learning really how to write for your phone. So rather than be just a consumer of the phone, the object of this course is really to show the kids how the thing works from behind the scenes. This little clicker game was just me trying to score points and show that I am not 48 years old. Yeah. So, okay, so fun, engaging, interesting. Josh is a clicker game, but I didn't hop into Josh. I'm sorry. I'll do a solid later. So at the end of each lesson, this is an AP class. So we've got this enormous mountain to climb in the course of our fun and games. So they have organized and have lots of different slow down when you know, can you demonstrate this? It's a lot of problem solving and editing. The questions are challenges, and all this is embedded in the program. And so this is where we're going, just to show you what these guys are up to in the next couple of months here. So the big finale here is that April 30th, we have to upload portfolio. So if anybody knows about AP classes, typically it's, here's a juice box, go sit down for 4 hours and tell us what you know about AP calculus, right? Here, they're creating products that we have to deliver digitally to AP Central, and then they're graded remotely in the way that essays might be graded in bulk. So they're actually, we had an Explore piece, which was the kids did a bit of research about technology and how it's used in society, which is really fun. We've got that done. Nice job. This Create bit, though, is writing an app. And there's very specific algorithms that have to be used. It has to be videotaped running. There's a written piece that goes with that, too. All that is uploaded. And then these guys are going to look to make some money on that down here when they enter that app challenge. There is a test, and that's 60% of the course grade. I've been able to go to Saturday sessions. Again, all of this is paid for by Maine Math and Science Alliance. It was about $4,000 that they threw at me to go do this, so to let me go for free. And we have another person on staff who I think we can rope in, so we might be able to get Bethany Granger up and sending her emails. We're looking to see if we can get some science to math, cross-curricular stuff going on. And I don't know, I think this is kind of interesting for me. Really, you've got to go down to Greeley and south to find computer science in curriculum to this degree. The guys certainly have a lot to say about this. I want to ask them some questions specifically so you can hear them. But Tyler, what are you also doing at the high school that has to do with computer computers?
I'm in the first robotics competition, which is, we have a couple weeks to build a robot, design it, code it, redesign it because it's broken, and and we take the competition and we play the game, the competition with the robots, we drive around, score the points. But the people who go there are people who are hiring students for businesses, like people from Google, all over Apple. They go to the competitions to see the people who go there, so they can get their names and like put them in their computer to reference later when they're looking for people to hire.
Right. So let me ask you a question though. So this problem solving that you're doing, when are you doing? When are you doing all this problem solving, computing, and programming, and building?
Every day.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is really, it's a club. So he's doing this after school on the weekends, on Saturdays. He's obsessed.
I spend about 20 hours a week in robotics, designing a robot. I just started on code because we needed the robot before we code it. But I spent about 8 hours the other day, like going diving into like how to code the robot, because there's a lot to know, like classes, libraries, a lot of things I don't know yet, to learn how to code it. So I'm able to drive the robot now,
Yeah.
which is really fun. And it took a lot of work, but these skills that I'm developing in robotics and in code.org, it will really help me in the long run if I'm going to own a business or work for someone's business, whether they need like a software development just for like to open a door that's broken. Like,
Or how about turn the heat down?
Yeah, turn the heat down.
Yes.
Or,
Yeah.
A lot of engineers need to know like basic code to enter into their systems that will render like giant bits of software
Right.
to, in order to solve the problem. So everywhere there's coding, but it's not. I didn't realize how large it was until I started doing code.org. It's huge.
Right. And that is a really strong part of the course, is that they show you the universality.
Yeah, it's just a huge thing.
No, but this is the thing that I think is interesting. Josh, when did you start looking through this stuff on your own?
It was the summer before the school year. I started to get into coding. I found this online learning tool on my computer.
And there are some,
And-
you've been really
yes.
going through those, yeah.
Yeah, and I started going through it. And then I was starting to learn C++. And then we started this year, and you came to me to be offered a kind of this class.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
I
which
was
is
like,
cool.
It was
Yeah.
It was like a week before school. You
Right.
said, you know, like, you want to do this class for your study month here? So I go here, like, sure, I'd love to learn.
Right.
And then for the last year, we've been like, this class, it's not like a class. It's like, it's really enjoyable to do. I go home, I work on it like for an hour, two. I don't do that with my other classes.
You should.
I should.
Yeah, you should.
I don't know. That's why I have to study home. But it's very enjoyable. Like for students who don't engage very much in like certain other classes, if they have this alternative to go to, they'll most likely love it. I love it.
Josh is the strongest coder in the group, and just let me.
He is. Tyler, now you can see how passionate Tyler is, but
and I want to let these people get on with their meeting, but the piece that I think is powerful about these kids is that we all have kids that are on their phones all the time. We all have kids that are gaming their brains out. They're accessing their consumers, and I think it's really important if we can. And by the way, I'm learning on the fly. I'm trying to keep ahead of these guys, right? But it's a wave that's incredible, and I do think that there are many other students at our schools that could benefit from this. And I think STEM classes like this could be I think a capstone course at our high school, and we could then have courses to try to get up to speed, because not everybody's like these guys. So how can we help our kids top out here? And we're in discussions right now as a department to try to really see how can we serve our kids best, and how can we access really amazing resources that corporations are begging us to access. So, final thought, Tyler?
So, Josh and I feel like we're pretty smart people. But even if you're not the quickest learner, the app is designed, the program is designed so well that even if you have trouble learning things, it tells you how to learn it. You just have to spend more time into the details in like the subsection. Like it explains things more thoroughly. If you need to look at that, he skips through it. Like he never even looks at it. But I usually read it.
But he's picking that up on his own.
Yeah. So it's very easy to learn, but if you learn a lot, it's not like you're not learning anything. It's not like you're drawing a circle and.
It's incredible what they've done.
It's a very useful class. And in robotics, like learning what I've learned now, I can talk to the programming teacher who helps us with the robot, and I understand what he's talking about, and I can implement what I've learned through code.org and use it. And I've been using it the past week, just trying to get the robot running, which is harder than it seems.
It's really hard. No, it's really
Yeah,
hard.
yeah, lots of code.
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah. So anyways, I picked the right guys. So, well, yeah, so we're looking forward to working with Laurie and everybody else. The tech guys have been awesome for us. Thank you always. So anyways, yeah, it was a fun experiment and we'll see where it goes. Thanks. Does anybody have any questions?
No, I think that's fine.
I have a comment,
Yeah.
and I credit to you, and it's just so inspiring to hear young people coming through the system with a passion, and really an avenue to pursue a passion. And you know, I'm pleased to hear from you. I'm sure you have very bright futures ahead. Your future starting now, and thank you to Mr. Bellmer for creating this opportunity, and for the board to understand. You talk about programming, and you talk about that program of studies, Ms. Lambert, and needing a few more pages in that program of studies booklet. This is what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
we're thinking hard about it. Yeah,
Right.
we're
And
getting along.
that our curricula evolves, and we are fortunate to have staff who pursue that on their own. This is not on your docket for a course that you're teaching.
Right.
This is in addition to
Right.
what Mr. Bellner does, and I'm certain that there are many other students out there in the population who would be interested in this or something else that we might develop as electives in our high schools. So thank you, and thank you to Kathy. And this has been a great night to hear about all different ways to, you know, get kids excited about learning, and it's practical information. You're all talking about labor market too, and you know, jobs that are in demand, and thinking, you know, ahead to you know, the world of work that we'll all join. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And I'll echo Mrs. Person that it has been a great night to hear students who are so excited about the programs that we're in. You guys are obviously excited. Before this meeting, we had a presentation from the outdoor leadership program here at MMTC, and they were all very excited, and that's just great to see. Thank you.
As far as we have students here, or did we recognize them all set? Oh,
Yeah, we're good for the high school. I just wanted to thank these guys for coming in, Josh, Tyler, Jason, Kathy. Just the transfer from, you know, Tyler's saying, from the coding to the robotics and what they do for there. If you've never gone to the actual robotics competition, those things are pretty exciting. It's neat to see that all the kids and all the teams have programmed their robot to do a specific task, to earn points, you know, to move them along or whatever. And the coding piece, you know, Jason's doing it on his own time, and loving it.
Yeah.
The kids are loving it, and they're doing it on their own time. So it's a good testament to them and just wanting to learn more and devour that. So thank you, guys.
Appointments. Entertain a motion to approve Danielle Arsenal as community service worker as her 90-day probation period is complete. Yes, seconded by Beth. Any discussion? So we have a motion to approve Danielle Arsenal as food service worker as her 90-day probation period is complete. All in favor? 0-0. And for information only, we have spring curricular positions. We don't have a vote required, but I can go ahead and read through those. Baseball grade 8, Stan Cromley. Baseball grade 7, Ben Dawski. Softball grade 8, Greg Chesley. Softball grade 7, Joe Higgins. Track coach, junior high school, Robert Morrison. Assistant track coach, junior high school, Sue Morris. Varsity baseball, Lawrence High School, Rusty Mercier. JV baseball, Lawrence High School, John Hersom. Varsity softball, Lawrence High School, Joey Marcoux. JV softball, Lawrence High School, Heather Johnson. Varsity lacrosse, girls, Lawrence High School, Gail Buckland. Varsity lacrosse, boys, Lawrence High School, Daniel Brannigan. Track coach, Lawrence High School, Tim Alberts. Assistant track coach, Lawrence High School, Peter Spears. TJ Hebert and Nancy Weiss. We have committee reports. Policy, can we have a share? We have a share.
The policy committee met and we discussed work on a plan to prepare for the COVID-19 regarding communication, establish or convening the crisis team to determine, the district will determine any procedures going forward.
Education?
We meet Monday.
Oh, this is coming. Yeah. So finance and facilities met, because we are working on the budget. And we have a first draft of the budget, which reflects about 4.98% increase over the current year. So this is the point where now everyone has asked for what they wanted. The administration will take an opportunity to whittle that down some. We have a number of projects. On Monday, we actually reviewed with Scott some of the building maintenance projects that we have outlined in the budget for next year, parking lot lighting, new ballasts for some LED lighting, for the LEDs that we already have, remodeling bathrooms, boiler treatments, and then additional amounts in natural gas lines. So we have a number of those things that are ongoing as well as our regular routine maintenance. The other person we had a presentation from on Monday night was Amy McDaniels regarding special education costs. That's really where one of our drivers will be this year. The special education line in total, which includes the salary and benefits that we talked about before, but it's over $600,000 increase. It's a pretty substantial increase. So we'll be spending some more time looking at that. One of the items that did come up was when we provide through the Connections for Kids program, so the behavioral health professionals that are in our school, when those services are provided, Connections for Kids bills main care appropriate, and main care pays those claims. And then our subsidy is reduced by the state portion of what that main care expense would be. It has been discovered that our subsidy has not been reduced at an appropriate amount, potentially ever. So our subsidy for the last several years has not been reduced at the rate it should have been. Department of Education said, we're aware it's an issue, we're not planning to go back, so we're not gonna try to go in and recapture money that we should have reduced and didn't. But they did tell us we need to plan for next year that our subsidy will get reduced by an appropriate amount. So we don't see that during the course of the year. Like right now, we have our projection from the Department of Education for our next year's subsidy that does not reflect the amount that will get reduced as any of our students receive services that are reimbursed by main care. So those are services like speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy that are provided in school, as well as any Section 28 or Section 65 main care services that are provided. So that is a cost driver this year. I'm not sure that it's something we have a lot of wiggle room on. We are fortunate, I think, that the Department of Education has said they're not coming back to recapture past years. They did put it in writing, so that was it. But it's something we're gonna have to think about as we work on the budget. So for right now, we're at about 4.9% increase over the current year's budget. And as I mentioned before, we are anticipating that if the governor's supplemental budget went through, that we would receive more state funding in the next fiscal year. We do have to keep in mind, though, the amount of carry forward that we have for next year is substantially lower than what we have had in past years. So it's almost an offset. The additional money we're getting from the state is sort of covering the fact that we have far less carry forward now. So we're not anticipating a drastic swing, which is something we always worried about. It should be relatively stable, but we do have to be aware that we have negotiated contracts and projected health insurance costs, which we talked about at the last meeting. Those were just over $700,000 just to budget for what has already been approved through negotiations and what will be a 10% health insurance cost increase. We will get the actual rate for health insurance probably within the next month, so we'll be able to adjust that hopefully down. But where we're at right now is a substantial number, and we have to be aware of that, and we need to be aware of the special education costs. So we will continue to work on that, and we'll have an update at our next meeting as well. We do have a finance and facilities meeting scheduled for the 19th, which is our next regular board meeting night, and we pushed it back to 5:30, so we would have a little bit extra time. And it's very likely that we will have additional finance committee meetings scheduled those last couple of weeks of March. And then the selection advisory group, which is an update, they provided names to the board at our last meeting, and we are following through with reference checks, and we'll be scheduling interviews, so that is moving along as well. We are having a special board meeting on Tuesday of next week, so that we can finalize as a board what our interview questions will be and how we will be looking to review answers. That's it for committee reports.
Thank you. A lot of our work over the past few days or a week or so has related to what Beth mentioned in the district response to the COVID-19 situation. But before I get into that, just some other things that I could just mention briefly. One being that we have used 5 emergency days with closed schools 5 times so far this season, from November 12th through most recently was February 13th. On our district calendar, we have March 20th as an in-service day, and we would like to have this conversation with the administrative team that we have a half a day and an early release for the second half for professional development would give us a CK back that we don't have right now, and we are getting very close to a situation in which our graduation date is set for June 4th, and we have to comply with statute that allows us to differ by 5 seat days. We have, by June 18th, we'll have 175 student days. By June 3rd, our seniors will have 164. So we need to close that gap, and this is one way to do it without pushing us too far into other circumstances, longer school days, weekends. So we're not averse to that. We didn't take any action on it, but we're in agreement and support that. And we'll get out communication to families, because people, younger children, probably counted on making arrangements for all day, or it's going to be a half day. And on that vein, I asked Lori Faulkner to be here this evening. You probably received your school messenger call, but one of the things that she's worked to do in expedite communication, we're going to talk about the need for that, getting information out as quickly as possible. Could you talk a little bit about what you have set up for us?
Well, first, I want to say that you guys have probably noticed the voices changed on the robocalls. And that is because any non-English speaking families, that's the only way we can get the messages to them in their language, which we felt was very important. So that is why it sounds differently. Also, watched the news just a couple weeks ago and heard an article about calling somebody is now considered rude. And I thought, okay, interesting, but if you think about it from our perspective in the school district, a lot of parents don't have voicemail set up on their cell phones, or as soon as a phone call comes in, rather than listening to it or answering it, they just call the school back and say, hey, someone has called, what's going on? So that ties up all of our secretaries district-wide. So we have implemented text messaging, SMS. So tomorrow around 4, everybody who has a cell phone or a phone number listed in Infinite Campus will get a text message saying this is from MSAD 49. If you would like to continue to receive these messages, hit yes, or you can hit stop. You can type stop. So we really feel that that's going to get important messages out much quicker to the parents, to the public. So that is the reason for it, and that is the reason for the change in the voices. So we're hoping we can keep everybody a little bit quicker informed of what's going on.
Thank you. So our school preparedness response and the evolution of it began when we noticed some higher rates of absenteeism in one of our elementary schools prior to the February break. We had to make reports to the state on the 4th of February, the 5th of February, because we had crossed that 15% threshold for absenteeism. That includes full population, includes the staff in the building, where we were just under 18%. And in talking to Scott, some things that we could do in our buildings, and we typically do them over school breaks, where staff are away, and put very intensive efforts on sanitizing the buildings and the surfaces, the touch points. As I'm learning more about all of this and what to call sanitizing versus deep cleaning. So those are more routine, seasonal routine measures. But of course, day by day, sometimes hour by hour, the information is evolving on how we ought to respond. We posted up on our website just some CDC guidance, and right now where we're at is just hand washing, keeping clean, staying out of work or at home when you're not feeling well, and just some of those general precautions. We talked a little further with the admin team about some measures we can take involving our school nurses, talking to faculty. I think all of our principals have convened meetings with faculty, brief ones, about just some precautions that we can take as employees and working with students and working with our staff. And again, more intensive sweep and cleaning of the buildings, making the hand sanitizers, encouraging students to use them, encouraging hand washing, providing the sanitizing wipes to all the teachers in the classrooms. They can work on wiping the surface. Not that their job is custodial work, but that they're able to just kind of throughout the day make sure the surfaces are clean. And it is those small things. And you know, it is not a surprise that it was the Fairfield Primary School where we made those 2 reports, where we have very young children in very close proximity who like to be close to each other. You have kindergartners, and you have preschoolers, and you have childcare with 3-year-olds in that building. So also out of that guidance arises the question of school closure as a last ditch effort, I guess, if you will, to protect people. It is a local decision, but what we're really looking at is do we have staff, enough staff in the building to properly supervise students? So we're looking at really that rate of absenteeism. And one of the measures we're working on and looking at our policy and our procedures here, we have a policy for unscheduled closing, but crisis response plans for a number of reasons we convened, and we convened recently, but we're going to be meeting early next week as administrators with Scott and some health personnel, and talk about where those thresholds are for a ratio of available staff to students, and where that line is. And we know that in some circumstances, you know, school will not be a normal school day, but at all possible, we'll try to keep schools open. And I did talk with Peter Thumley earlier today, and he is the person who is actually writing the language requested by Main School Management. It should be in Steve Bailey's hands today or by this hour. I will attend a superintendent's workshop session where we're going to hear from the DOE and MSMA and have a conversation about pandemic planning. And fortunately for 49 and this school board and myself, we have Beth Lambert here, who also works for the DOE and facilitated through a webinar this afternoon on some guidance out of the Department of Education, and we're calling upon her to kind of fill in some of the pieces that I haven't touched on.
Yeah, so thanks, Ken. So I'm part of the pandemic planning team at the Department of Education. I'm in charge of educational continuity. So that's, I'm going to share a bunch of stuff, but that's sort of where I'm specializing, which is good for us, I think. So we can talk about that. And Roberta and I have chatted, and we're in really good hands. So I think that's great. Really our number one is following the CDC guidance at this point, which if you have been following it is changing hourly in a lot of cases. And so it's just a reminder to look at that regularly and don't go on information that may be even a day or an afternoon old. And following that, which is wash your hands, like that's the number one guidance right now, which can seem like a little thing, but and our big message is about planning ahead. We have a couple different venues around that. One is cleaning, which the school is doing fantastic, and the staff, and making sure we have plenty of supplies ordered and are dealing with that, because we know that we're going to use more than we might have been predicting. And to update our crisis plan, which we're doing to determine, what is our threshold, because every local will have a different need based on their facilities and their staff and their size. So having those kind of ideas and the numbers are going to be so important to have it now while it's not happening and it's not an issue. So when it does, we're not making decisions based on sort of fear or panic or just stress. So around reporting for the state, we're asking that districts are coding their attendance, so you're collecting when students are out with these symptoms, so that you can track that, and then depending on what the future holds, we could look back and know if there were significant attendance issues that might affect accountability, or finance issues that we would, not necessarily there would be anything done, but we'd have that coded already, so we would be able to get our best chance of getting any kind of reimbursement or anything like that, and really close cost tracking, how and why we're spending money that has anything to do with this COVID-19, because there are many things that could happen in the future. If you look at other states even that are going on right now, that we could recoup a lot of, not all of this, so if we want to do really good tracking and careful tracking of that. As far as educational continuity, the message is, again, planning ahead. We are asking and we are recommending and advising districts to ask teachers to have 2 weeks of extended sub-plans ready now or in the coming days, so that on hand and where everyone knows where they are, easily accessible by anybody. We're really more concerned about adults than we are about children. Don't quote me like on the front page of the newspaper. We're very concerned about children always. We think that this issue is going to be more about the adults, because we need adults to run things, and when they're not there. And so the likelihood that a teacher's out, and we need to figure out, what district needs to figure out how to support those students. So we need those sub-plans extended, making sure that the teachers are consulting with special ed and other service providers, so those sub-plans have the proper accommodations and everything that they need there. Making sure to develop, and I think the crisis team is working on staff contingencies, how we get coverage in different scenarios, so that teachers are prepared and understand what might be asked of them in different circumstances. Everybody appreciates just knowing and not having it be a last minute piece. We're all in this together, and at the department we're just asking everybody to be flexible and creative, and that's what we're trying to be as well with requests that come to us. Especially thinking about any staff that are the only ones at what they do, so that that expertise, if they weren't there, somebody is ready to cover that or has something. Bus drivers, we already know we're short on bus drivers, and don't have a lot of subs or any. If we lost some bus drivers for a period of time, having alternative routes, extra routes, and then on that, thinking about the scheduling. So if you have to do more bus routes, you might start school later. If we didn't have to create those schedules in the moment, I think that, those are the things that will really help keep everybody and the education moving forward as fast as possible. Same thing with food service, having meals that don't require a lot of special training on hand or ready so that people can fill in more easily, and I know we've had some experience with that, so we're good. Thinking about how education would continue in the seriously unlikely event that schools would close. How would the school want to, class by class, building by building, pursue that? You are absolutely not required, rumor, by the state to offer web-based coursework. That is not a requirement. It could be a choice that the district wants to make, or building, or teachers individually want to make. But we're advising to make sure that you have an accurate count in your classes that are affected of which students don't have access to internet and or a device when they're home, because we need to be considering that those students not be at any disadvantage when we're trying to continue their educational programming. And depending on the amount, the number of students that would affect, you might choose to give them something that they could take home that wouldn't, and other students do something web-based, or you might determine that it's just better to do non-web-based. Making sure that obviously those things also, the accessibility concerns are always taken care of with anything web-based or sub-plans. Thinking about communication, I would really recommend more communication, and we've been talking about that early communication because everybody's wondering what's going to happen, and we're hearing about California and Washington, and we want to be calm and just know that we're in very good hands. Make sure, because things are changing all the time, that whatever we're putting out is dated and timestamped, because things are changing hourly, and so you don't want somebody referencing something that actually is already old. And thinking about, reminding staff and faculty and people involved about social sensitivities and students who might be affected in different ways, or social stigmas if somebody's sick and what kids might say, and being sensitive to those things. And sharing plans with the community. And I would just reiterate from us at the state that closing schools is highly unlikely, and not only is it unlikely, it is very undesirable. If we close schools, certainly one school even, it affects our economy, it's an incredible burden on our parents who need to work, and when they don't work, their businesses need them to work, and it's not where we want to be, and we recognize that, and so we're trying to support schools in every way that we can, and I know the district is trying to support our students, and so we're going to work together, and that, as Roberta said, this is a local decision, but these decisions aren't made in isolation, and they'll be made in collaboration with CDC and the DOE and our local partners for emergency preparation. And everybody's really working on this. I'm sure you've heard lots of things, and I'm very happy that we're doing this now and not waiting until we have a significant issue here in Maine. So that's what I have.
Thank you. I just have a concern, because I actually went on NHS UK's website yesterday, because I just don't feel like things are getting filtered out. I don't get this from a medical thing. Speaking about adults, however, is there any thought process put into, because the recommendation is 2 weeks self-isolation for contact. So if a teacher or a bus driver is diagnosed, everybody becomes a contact because it's a one illness, that whole classroom. So I'm just wondering if we've thought about that piece. Because it's this is how it spreads. I mean, this afternoon, there's now a new cruise ship off the coast of California, and there are cases of that. So I think we just need to realistically plan on it's coming. It's going to get here.
And I think that's exactly what we're doing
Yeah.
here at the district, is planning, because it is
Yeah.
coming. I think we're just trying to be realistic and think about how to minimize the
And I agree.
burden and
There's
negative
no
impact.
panic, but I just think realistically, having worst case scenario plan.
And probably in that situation, again, decisions will be made in concert with agencies, health official agencies, even, Peter was talking about, the Department of Labor, he's also, involved. But, there's a difference between, an illness and a diagnosed, incident, and I expect that we would get direction from health officials at that point, and that is beyond the scope of a local decision. Right now, we're not in that situation, I hope we aren't, but, anticipating is,
Because I also think this is part of it.
Well, and that's
Yeah,
another thing that
that's-
we talked
you know what I
about
mean, yeah.
with our administrators when we met on Tuesdays. I asked principals to connect with their school nurses and review the health records and connect with the families of students with fragile health and compromised immune systems. And what is our plan for them? And, risk of exposure is a consideration, and sometimes those are individual decisions that a parent makes. But, yes, it's
Messy.
it is, and we're doing the best we can. We have, as I said, we just put out CDC guidance on the website, and it's going to be on Facebook. I do intend to, we decided to send out a mailing to all our families, that better to put things in, sometimes things in backpacks get lost, or they never make their way out of, wherever they picked them up out of chem class when they checked out. But the substance of that mailing, I'm holding until our meeting tomorrow. I have connected with the Kennebec emergency management person, the person I met with this fall, Theodore Marshall, who reviewed our crisis plan. And even he doesn't have concrete information. He said Friday, I'll have, and I was asking much earlier. So I think we're all kind of reacting, and it's good, the timing, we're not in the midst of the crisis, and it gives us a chance to see where the gaps are. So I think we have a good team, and thank you to Scott, who's been very proactive. One being that he contacted the supplier, and I think he's ahead of local superintendents or school districts, and we're assured the supplies that we need at least, so as best we can to keep the place sanitized. So thank you, but Beth does bring up a great point, that it will be at a cost. As you see, we have a finite number of staff who, clean our buildings, and their work is focused and targeted on this specific purpose. So other things are deferred, so we're prioritizing. And again, we have some forward-thinking people on our team. So we're on it, but if you have ideas or concerns, please let me know. And again, we'll communicate what we know as we know it, but be sure that we don't, inadvertently put out some misinformation or dated information out there, so.
Yeah, as I said, I just think, in our back pockets, it's best to have worst case. It's not my plan now, and no, we don't want to panic anybody or anything, but 95% of people who get it are fine anyway, but.
Oh, principals. Our principals have a bit to report, some uplifting news from our schools. Ms. Ryan.
I'll keep it brief. I have a few things I want to quickly share. First, our PTO Ties and Tiaras dance, which is our father-daughter dance, or daughter and kind of father figure in their life dance, will be held on March 21st. It'll be from 6 to 8. We do have a snow day. I hope we do not need to use it, but it's the 28th. So if you get a chance to come by, it'll be, it's a jam-packed night. It's a wonderful night. I'll be there with my daughter, and dancing on the dance floor, so I'm excited. Our science club has started we just received our salmon eggs. So if you get to stop into our library, you can check out our tank. And our 5th grade science club will be raising them to fry. And bringing them into the river. So this is our third year doing it. So, and the staff that run it, Kathy Burkhart, Tony Terry, put a lot of extra work into that. And we have a solid group of fifth graders that have volunteered their time and parent support to make sure they can pick them up after they're done. So I'm excited to see that project come to completion. And then finally, something that's taken all of our time, I'm sure the other elementary schools might mention the same thing, but our grades 4 through 6 students are working on their future Maine scholarship essays. So Bob Stewart, who's from the Maine College Circle, he just recently, a few weeks ago, conducted presentations and workshops with our students to think about and talk about what they want to do, how they're going to do that, creating pathways to get there. And they're working on essays. Our teachers are working with those students to develop those. And our scoring committee, which is made up, I think all of you received an email possibly from Marissa Martin. So I hope some of you were able to volunteer to be on that scoring committee, and that's on April 1st. So I think we're going to have about 160 or so essays to score. Our goal district-wide, I think, based on last year, is about $5,500 scholarships we would like to award. We have shifted all of our funding. Our funding used to come from a lot of donors that came through the College Circle down kind of house down in southern Maine. And it's something that Bob Stewart even, I don't know if anybody knows him, but he actually self-funded even a lot of the work. So he's trying to, it's really building, and he's trying to shift it into local kind of ownership. And so the Maine State Credit Union is partnering with us. They're donating. I don't want to speak before it's official, but I believe they'll be donating a couple $1,000. We're trying to partner with other banks and other businesses and corporations. In order to keep this going, though, we need to raise about $7,500. We didn't quite raise enough last year to cover all of our scholars. We were able to fill in the gap from other donors. But really, to keep it local, we need to keep that funded. So we're kind of in the middle of our fundraising campaign that we just started, so I hope we're able to raise $7,500 in the next couple months. So if you're interested, you know a business that'd like to, or they just have questions to ask, they can talk to a building principal or one of our guidance counselors, and we'll send you in the right direction. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Mrs. Gordon? Thank you.
So over in Clinton, just before February break, Matthew Plaisted, our phys ed teacher, always does jump rope for heart for the American Heart Association and raises money for that. So school-wide, we raised $1,000, and then he always tries to give a little extra incentive for the one student who raises the most money gets to pie him in the face. So Mr. Blake Fowler, a kindergarten student, actually raised the most money, and so in an assembly, he was able to take a nice Cool Whip pie and put it right into Mr. Plaisted's face. So he's a great sport, and Blake did a great job, so that's always fun to see that happening. This week, currently, at Clinton Elementary, we're celebrating Dr. Seuss Week. We opened up the week with green eggs and ham for lunch, and a school-wide Read Aloud Monday afternoon. Tuesday was Crazy Hats. Yesterday was Wacky Wednesday. Today we had many different guest readers come in and read to different classrooms, and tomorrow is Crazy Socks Day, and along with that, we are collecting socks to donate for the Home for Little Wanderers, similar to what our student council does for Hats for the Homeless during that campaign. And we want to thank Jess Buck, our librarian, for organizing all of those activities for this week. Mr. Wedge spoke about the one item, but where I thought he was going was the Empower assessment prep for our grades 3 through 6, which all the elementary schools and junior high are working on right now. So our students will be taking those assessments this month. So our teachers and our computer teacher, Faith Gushing, is working very hard to prep the students for those assessments that will happen this month. Thank you.
News from Albion and Fairfield. This year, the 4th grade entered the Young Writers Spooky Sagas contest, and although no one in the class won the big prize, 4 out of 12 of the 4th grade students in Mrs. Westella's class were chosen to be published in the Spooky Sagas 2019 New England Tales book, to be out by March 31st, 2020. This book will be sent to the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. to provide a lasting record of our students' achievement. They were selected out of 10,000 entries.
Our fourth grade teacher will receive a complimentary copy of the book. In addition to being published authors, they receive a certificate and a bookmark. We're very proud of the fourth grade students and look forward to seeing their stories in print. Since October, the students in Albion and Fairfield have been having monthly visits from nutritionists from Maine General's Cooking Matters to help inspire our students to make healthy choices when eating. They've also educated the students on reading nutritional labels and what each category means. So far, our kiddos have made smoothies, tried various fruits and vegetables, and put together parfaits during the Cooking Matters demonstrations. Lisa Repertella from Cruisin' Country 93.5 visited Fairfield Primary School as a part of the Say What project. Repertella is an on-air personality with Mixed Maine Media, and one of her goals is to engage our Central Maine community with one another through radio. During Cruisin' Country's visit, they recorded each of the kindergartner classes from Fairfield Primary to introduce this radio segment. The host did the Say What piece and ended with, "This Say What is brought to you by," and then the name of the teacher, the class, and our school's name. And that's all for today. Thank you.
So this week, the junior high has had the Scholastic Fair. Many classes have visited the library to view and buy books, posters, and other items. I stopped in to look at some of the titles that are being offered, high interest, age-appropriate books that many students are purchasing. And it's kind of coinciding with the Dr. Seuss weeks, the whole reading theme. It's been open during the school days this week, as well as parent-teacher conferences, which are wrapped up tonight. So it's very successful this past week with this book fair. So back in the beginning of February, I reported to the board that the junior high will be hosting Hoops for Heart 3-versus-3 basketball tournament on Friday before February vacation, which also happened to be Valentine's Day. Hoops for Heart, Valentine's Day, they were playing that way. Over 100 students signed up, formed teams, collected donations, and competed against each other. The 7th grade had a time slot, the 8th grade had a time slot. High school students were recruited throughout games, as they were approved ahead of time, which helped the games go very smoothly. In the end, the students raised $1,100 for the American Heart Association. Big thank you goes out to Mrs. Heinrich and Mrs. Morris for organizing the event. Thank you.
Just want to give kudos to, thank you guys. Thank you. Give kudos to the cafeteria workers downstairs because they've been putting on big breakfasts every Thursday for the last 2 or
They've got, this is the 4th week.
Fourth one.
Today was the 4th one they've done.
Yeah, and those have been very well received. And then they've also started doing themed lunches around geography units, and Brian was trying to coordinate with our foreign exchange students also to maybe get them involved with that. And this week we just wrapped up Winter Carnival. It was kind of a low-grade affair. We weren't outside or anything like that, but they were doing kind of homecoming themed things with, you know, dress days and whatnot, and then culminated in a staff versus unified basketball game this afternoon, which was pretty fun to watch. And then Mr. Jones cavalierly got our parking spots lost because he challenged 4 kids to come down, and anybody who made a basket from half court could get our parking spots for a week, and we had 2. We had the opportunity to try and make it and nullify it, but neither one of us could. But that was it.
Thank you.